My name is Daniel Crook, my pronouns are he, him, and I am proud to serve as the programs manager here at Outfest. It is the honor of a lifetime to introduce this year's Legacy Centerpiece screening on a gorgeous 35mm print, the 20th anniversary of Todd Haynes' masterpiece, Far From Heaven. Before we get started, there are so many people that we have to thank who make this festival a reality, beginning with our members and our volunteers who are so generous to this organization and without whom we would not be here right now. So much thanks to those folks. Let's also give a hand to our presenting sponsors, Warner Brothers Discovery and IMDb, our grand sponsor, Amazon Prime Video, and our premier sponsors, Peacock, Gilead, Ammo Creative, the DGA, and the Byte Magazine. And of course, we want to thank all of you for joining us at the 40th year. So let's give all of those folks, including yourself. And of course, we would like to wish an enormous thank you to our special guest this evening, whose presence, to quote the film Carol, is the most breathtaking, the most generous of gifts. Writer-director Todd Haynes, producer Christine Vachon, and Academy Award-winning actress Julianne Moore. Finally, we extend our gratitude to journalist Manuel Betancourt, who will be leading those three legendary artists in conversation during the Q&A after tonight's screening. We want everyone who attends Outfest Los Angeles to feel as safe as possible, so please do keep your mask on at all times when inside the venue. In keeping with the theme of the evening, just pretend it's a silk headscarf for your face, okay? And if you don't have one, we've got some in the lobby. And we can also just pretend cell phones haven't been invented yet as we go back to the 50s. So silence those things, we don't want to see them out. No cell phones, please. The closest exits to you would either be behind you there, there's one exit here, and there's one exit here. Now on to Far From Heaven. While tonight's feature presentation celebrates its 20th anniversary this year, this evening's screening of Far From Heaven has been over 70 years in the making, famously taking inspiration from, amongst other places, classic Hollywood director Douglas Sirk's melodramas of the 1950s, or as they were known at the time, women's pictures or women's weepies. Vivid in both their heightened use of color and externalized emotional landscapes of their leading ladies reflected in the lush mise-en-scène, Todd Haynes' Technicolor opus takes the genre a step further. Just as Sirk undermined the societal dogma of the Eisenhower era by weaving subversive stories of class difference and prejudice that subtly cut down the bourgeois white picket conformity of the time, Haynes sets Far From Heaven in that same mid-century milieu while speaking directly to the politics of injustice in the Bush years of the early 2000s. Of course, just as the topics of Sirk's All That Heaven Allows or Imitation of Life remain relevant into the current era, Haynes is tackling issues that were as evergreen in the 1950s as they were in the 2000s, and now regrettably in the 2020s. Racism and white supremacy, homophobia and a hatred towards the marginalized, patriarchy and the subjugation of women, and a class struggle that permeates all of the above. By manifesting these silent, malevolent forces into a more frank language that would have been allowed under the Hays Code, while honoring the wallpaper prisons of Sirk's pioneering designs, there is a compassionate, more explicit vigilance that mingles amongst the bright daiquiris and fabulous living rooms of the Connecticut suburbs throughout Far From Heaven, as well as a great possibility for connection across these constricting strata. Now, while this may seem at first like a far cry from Haynes' new queer cinema roots, of course it isn't. It is in so many ways the logical extension of Haynes' film career up to that point. The sincerity and radical invention of Superstar, the Karen Carpenter story, where he first began his enormously fruitful collaboration with producer and founder of Killer Films, Christine Vachon. Absolutely. The formal experimentation and queering of classic Hollywood genre style in Poison, big favorite of mine. The formative traumas and root causes of shame in Dottie Gets Spanked, the exhumation of a bygone era in Velvet Goldmine, and the internal suffocation and toxic environments of Safe, which of course began his game-changing collaboration with the transcendent Julianne Moore. For my money, those are that's the best film and performance of the 1990s, for my money, so we love Safe up here. These strands, of course, go on to continue with I'm Not There, Mildred Pierce, Carol, Wonderstruck, Dark Waters, and of course Todd's most recent film, The Velvet Underground. Within this filmography, Far From Heaven is a crown jewel. Now, on a personal note, very, very quickly, I just have to share that as a young person, Far From Heaven is really the film that unlocked the portal for me into a life defined by a passionate love of film. It ignited a curiosity in me to dive deeper into film history and to Sirk and to the work of our guests here. into the conventions of the film genre and the way that films can speak to each other across time and across boundaries or borders. It's the film that moved me down the path of pursuing a life in film, so it's no overstatement to say that the reason I'm here right now is largely thanks to the three of you. So I just had to say, thank you. Now, starring Julianne Moore, Dennis Quaid, Dennis Haysbert, Viola Davis, Patricia Clarkson, Celia Weston, James Reeve Horn, and so many more talented actors, and nominated for 4 Academy Awards for Elmer Bernstein's stirring, evocative score, Ed Lachman's genius, luminous cinematography, Haynes' incisive original screenplay, and of course, Moore's unforgettable performance as Cathy Whitaker. Absolutely, please. Bringing to life one of cinema's most memorable characters with shattering sensitivity and a miraculous ability to filter the many disparate feelings of this picture through her deceptively delicate physicality and expansive emotional range. Far From Heaven is a monumental work of cinema and simply one of the most beautiful films you could ever see. And on the 35mm print tonight, it's going to look freaking incredible. So I'm so glad you're all here. It's great to see such a full house for Far From Heaven. And it is my great honor to welcome Todd Haynes, Julianne Moore, and Christine Vachon up here to the stage.
Thanks, you guys. What a beautiful introduction. We have nothing more to say, right? We are so happy and proud to be here, and we want to thank Outfest for inviting us in the movie. And I'm not going to say much now. We're going to come back afterwards and have a Q&A and with Manuel and hopefully answer all the questions then. But I just have to say that this is the only film that I ever wrote for a specific actor. And it was after a first prior experience with this actor who blew my mind and felt like it was limitless what we might be able to do the next time around. And so I'm just so proud to have Julie here and to have the other partner of my life in filmmaking with me, Christine. So it just means a lot for me to be here tonight and have you guys all out. So thanks so much for coming. We'll look forward to talking to you afterwards. Thank you.
And with that, again, please just silence your cell phones, stick around for the Q&A afterwards, and please enjoy the 20th anniversary of Far From Heaven.